Not E3 season does not disappoint with a whole bunch of announcements and updates on indie games, so the best of day 1 begins with Grime Tinge of Terror, the latest free update to a 2D Souls-like title that is available right now, adding a new game plus mode with a new exclusive boss and a lot more, so go patch your game and dive in. I'm not usually a first-person survival game person, but Serum did get my attention, one that is set in an irradiated world where this mysterious luminescent liquid known as Serum is a resource that you can harvest for a variety of things, where the mutant enemies and mysterious setting looks intriguing. The announcement of Yomi 2 was also a thing, being a card battler which is not a collectible card game, where if the characters look familiar, that is because they are creations of David Sirlin and Sirlin Games, last seen in Fantasy Strike, and even the physical board game / card game Yomi, so this looks to be an interesting advancement of the idea. Another new reveal is Abyssus, a roguelite first-person shooter with a variety of fun-looking customizable weapons, where I think that the roguelite nature might turn some people off, and it does the weird thing of slapping punk onto their theme, with the underwater brine punk being the descriptor here, which I have no idea what that means, but it looks kind of neat, so keep an eye on this. We had a showcase of Toxic Crusaders as well, a pixel art beat 'em up title that sure looks like that most recent Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles beat 'em up game, only with different mutants instead, and might be fun with friends. We got another look at 30XX, the roguelite Mega Man-like that has been in early access since 2021, where they updated their build your own maker mode and confirmed the Switch as a platform, but stopped short of mentioning its 1.0 release date. We also had the announcement of Terra Memoria as well, a self-styled cozy exploration game, but I'm not quite sure what you do with this game, but the Steam store page talks about crafting, building and repairing things in the world to solve puzzles, as well as to write a regional guide of the area, so it's a weird one but a curiosity for sure. Pizza Possum sure looks like the second coming, or at least attempt at Untitled Goose Game, where you play as a mischievous possum scurrying about to steal food while avoiding the guard dogs, looking wacky and fun. Light Odyssey is also new to me, where it looks like a grimdark top-down Souls-like boss rush title, which can be tricky to pull off, but if games like Fury exist, I'm sure that there's a way to get this right. A tiny sticker tale just looks like a wonderfully cozy adventure game where you play as a donkey, exploring the world and using stickers to solve various puzzles, helping others and changing the world, looking like a delight. The gorgeous pixel art of Quasimorph did also catch my eye, which is why I featured it as well, being a classic turn-based roguelike in a sci-fi setting and should be a good modern throwback entry. A little bit more of a niche entry is Everholm, being a farming and homesteading title, but having action elements as well, where the isometric pixel art is nice in this. Whoever thought that mashing together the medieval fantasy strategy game Kingdom with Stranger Things, resulting in Kingdom 80s, is taking a wild swing at it, where in concept, this appears to be fairly similar to its strategy roots, but with a different skin on, where you play as kids on bicycles instead of a medieval lord on a griffin, so it sure is something different, where this releases in early access later this month. From the name and style of this game, I'm a little skeptical since Sengoku Dynasty seems to be the same concept as Medieval Dynasty but in a different setting, where the developer of that is the publisher of this game, so it seems like a little bit of a shameless clone or cash grab, but I suppose there's room for improvement with a different setting to appeal to different people. The Wario-like ANTONBLAST got a very weird live-action trailer, but let's look at gameplay, where you have to travel to the end of the level, hit the button to destroy it, and run back to the start to not get caught up in the explosion, where people are clamoring for this type of game, as seen by the recent popularity of Pizza Tower, so be sure to keep an eye on this. Jumplight Odyssey is one of 2 games in development from the people that made Amello, where this is a colony sim where you're managing a spaceship, where it did have a gorgeous anime-style trailer, but I was a little disappointed with how the gameplay looked in comparison. Lil Guardsman has been described as cartoony Papers, Please, where you play as a 12-year-old suddenly put in charge of the guard house at the castle, having to decide who gets to enter and looks awesome. I have always been very impressed with World of Horror, even prior to its early access release in 2020, despite not being a horror person, where the 1-bit black and white pixel art here is beautifully done and I believe is the work of a solo developer who did make the art in MS Paint. The Junji Ito inspiration is clear, being a roguelite RPG that is very interesting, getting a release date confirmation for Spooky Month 2023. We also had, strangely, the appearance of Remnant 2 at the Guerrilla Collective Showcase, where I think that this is more in the AA space personally and would have been at Jeff Keighley's thing since it first showed up at the Game Awards. Still, this is a third-person Souls-like with ranged weapons, which impressed in its first entry, so I hope that the sequel will be much improved. Arc Seed is a beautiful pixel art mech strategy game that of course got my attention due to the visuals, but where I can see the deck building or cards aspect being an issue for some of you. Since I last covered WrestleQuest, I found out that apparently this game did license the wrestler lookalikes such as Andre the Giant and Macho Man Randy Savage, looking to be a neat wrestling-themed turn-based RPG and looks fun, where it got a release date confirmation as well. Toads of the Bayou is another game that I featured, being a turn-based tactics title with deck building and base building elements, where it's another one with pretty squares. Deadlink is a first-person cyberpunk roguelite first-person shooter where you're playing as clones, attempting to cause as much damage as possible to the mega corporations, and has impressed so far in early access, also getting a 1.0 release date for next month. If you're a fan of games like Forager, I'm sure that Nova Lands will be one of interest, being a crafting sandbox with automation and action elements and could be massive. The next title from the developers of Elwa's Awakening is named Avoid Hope, one that has a double meaning in the title, being a puzzle platformer that looks interesting. Demonschool is another pixel art title of interest, being a tactical RPG that combines 2D and 3D assets, having a little bit of Persona vibes and should be good. Slime 3K is from the developers of Despot's Game and Despotism 3K, sporting their signature pixel art and colour scheme, where this is a Vampire Survivors style Bullet Heaven equivalent, but where more effort has been put into this as compared to a bunch of other clones. The wonderful Sticky Business has you running a business where you're making and selling stickers, looking so cozy and wonderful. Similarly, the open-world survival crafting action-adventure game Black Skylands has impressed so far in early access, where it will be releasing in 1.0 in August after about 2 years, where this has been generally good so far and should turn out well. Another early access title hitting 1.0 is Blood West, where the developers released an almost 2-minute animated trailer which is weird, where it is essentially an immersive sim with boomer shooter graphics and is good, so I thought that it was weird to go full animated. This game got squirreled away in the publisher showcase section, where the long-in-development sci-fi
farm simulation RPG
One Lonely Outpost releases in early access later this month. This game has undergone a visual transformation, going from pure 2D pixel art to one with 3D elements, where the ability to go organic or robotically enhance your crops and animals seems like an interesting choice. What if Tony Hawk was a frog? That's the premise of Ollie Frog Toad Skater, a beautifully done skateboarding title where you can pull off sick tricks and will be for fans of the genre. Forgotlings has a kind of weird animated trailer only, so I had to dig deeper, where I then found out that it was a gorgeous hand-drawn 2D cinematic action platformer with stealth elements and got onto my wishlist as a result. There were a number of crossovers with my own showcase, where I have to give another shout out to Iron Meat, a beautiful pixel art run and gun title that sure looks like Contra, where along with this beautiful animated trailer, this got a release date in October as well. Questmaster is another attempt at the build-your-own Zelda maker that Nintendo has still not made, but this game will live and die by how many players they can get to be continually making new dungeons for the game, which, to be honest, for an indie team might not be that realistic a prospect, but I'm glad that another developer is making the attempt following Super Dungeon Maker. We got a new look at Sacrifier as well, a pixel art JRPG from Polish developer Pixelated Milk, having been on my watchlist since it was revealed and looks good here, where it showed off platforming and exploration, which is different from the usual top-down or 3D perspectives of this genre. I'm excited for this next game since Crashlands 2 is the follow-up to an excellent action crafting game, but with updated visuals, looking to have the same compelling gameplay loop. Similarly, Dark Deity 2 is another sequel of interest, being the direct follow-up to their first game and is set 25 years after the events of that, being a Fire Emblem-like tactics title with the usual political intrigue serving as the backdrop. where I hope they've listened to the feedback from the first entry and have tweaked and improved the sequel. We also got another look at Hammerwatch 2, the follow-up to a beloved dungeon crawler, where this looks to combine the best parts of Diablo and Gauntlet, with the latest iteration looking excellent, so be sure to drop this a wishlist. One of the most beautiful games in development is Europa, one that I did have on my list of games to cover since it was first shown off at a Wholesome Direct related event if I'm not wrong, but this is a gorgeous open world exploration title that sure gives off Studio Ghibli vibes. Unlike Zelda, this is a non-violent entry which has both pros and cons, but if you love getting lost and immersing yourself in a video game, this looks like the perfect candidate. This entry is a little weird since this is the trailer for the Legends DLC for Symphony of War: The Nephilim Saga, looking to be more of an expansion pack with new story chapters, new characters, classes, game modes and more, where the original is excellent and is more like Langrissa and Ogre Battle rather than the more common Fire Emblem or Final Fantasy Tactics inspired games. The developer of the cyberpunk flying career simulator Cloudpunk released a first-person mode which was well received, so for their next trick, they decided to lean into that with Nivalis, a first-person live sim title where you're living in and exploring the titular cyberpunk city looking absolutely gorgeous and is a must-play. The next game from the developer of the underrated Isolates has been revealed, being an interesting mixture of genres since it looks like a top-down Zelda-style game but somehow also has platforming and is Metroidvania inspired with ability gating, but whatever genre this falls into, Crypt Custodian should be great and you can find more awesome indie games in my showcase here.